Here is something the sour cream industry does not want you thinking about while you stand in the dairy aisle. The product in that familiar white tub might not be real sour cream. Not in the way your grandmother made it, not in the way food scientists define it, and arguably not in the way the FDA originally intended. The United States sour cream market is worth over $4 billion a year. Americans buy tens of millions of units every single week, and a significant portion of what fills those tubs is not cultured cream. It is a carefully engineered cocktail of modified cornstarch, carrageenan, and synthetically derived natural flavor, designed to mimic the result of a process these companies quietly stopped investing in years ago. They are selling you the idea of sour cream, the white tub, the familiar tang, the thick, spoonable texture, while engineering a cheaper version behind a label that the FDA technically cannot challenge. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which 5 brands to put back on the shelf, which 3 are the real deal, and how to audit any sour cream in your fridge in under 30 seconds. I spent 3 weeks investigating every major brand on the shelf, and the results were not what I expected. To understand why this is happening, you need to understand what real sour cream actually is. The process is simple. You take fresh cream, full-fat grade A cream, introduce live bacterial cultures, specifically Lactococcus lactis, and let those bacteria consume the natural sugars in the cream. They produce lactic acid. That lactic acid is what gives sour cream its signature tang, and it causes the cream to thicken naturally over 12 to 24 hours of temperature-controlled fermentation. 2 ingredients, time. That is the entire process. Here is the math reality. Full-fat cream is expensive. Temperature-controlled fermentation infrastructure costs money, and waiting 24 hours for a product to be ready cuts into production volume. So here is what the industrial food complex figured out. You can skip the waiting, use a lower fat cream and skim milk blend, and add modified cornstarch and carrageenan to artificially replicate the thick, spoonable texture that fermentation would have produced naturally. Then you paste the tangy taste back in with natural flavor. A legally vague term that can mean almost anything derived from a natural source, including synthetically processed compounds. The result looks like sour cream, scoops like sour cream, and if you have been eating the industrial version your whole life, it tastes like sour cream. But it is a simulation. The FDA's standard of identity under 21 CFR 131.160 does require real sour cream to be made from cream with live cultures and a minimum of 18% milk fat. But here is where the loophole enters. Reduced fat and light sour cream products are exempt from that standard. Brands can load those versions with thickening agents and stabilizers and still put the words sour cream on the front. And even for full fat products, enforcement is limited. The ingredient list is where the truth lives. And these companies are counting on you to never read it, or the skip list. 5 brands to avoid. Brand 1. Breakstones has been around since 1898. That is over 120 years of brand history, and Kraft Heinz has spent every decade of it building an image of wholesome American dairy. Flip the tub. The ingredient list reads grade A cultured reduced fat milk and cream, skim milk, modified food starch, whey protein concentrate, carrageenan, locust bean gum, guar gum. That is 7 ingredients to replicate what should take 2. Modified food starch is a cheap, industrially processed thickening agent. Carrageenan is a seaweed-derived additive that has been the subject of ongoing scientific debate regarding its effects on gut inflammation. Locust bean gum and guar gum are structural binders. Without them, this formula would separate in the tub before it ever reached a shelf. The marketing says fresh and creamy. The ingredient list says cost optimized. When a brand with over a century of dairy history needs 7 ingredients to make sour cream, that is not tradition. That is a quarterly earnings decision. Brand 2, Knudsen, Hampshire. Knudsen positions itself as a California dairy heritage brand. Clean packaging, pastoral imagery, the kind of label that quietly suggests generations of craft. What it does not advertise is that Knudsen is also a Kraft Heinz property. Flip it. Carrageenan and locust bean gum are sitting right there in the ingredient list, alongside the cultured cream. Carrageenan is notably banned in products certified organic by the USDA National Organic Program. Yet it appears freely in a conventionally marketed product carrying a premium price tag and a heritage name. The Hampshire in the label evokes rolling English countryside and old-world dairy craftsmanship. The ingredient panel tells a completely different story. You are paying a heritage markup for an industrial formula, and Kraft Heinz is counting on you to never flip the tub. That is the business model. Brand 3, Land O'Lakes. Land O'Lakes markets itself on the strength of its cooperative identity. Farmer-owned, accountable, rooted in the American Midwest. That story sells. But flip their standard sour cream container and you will find modified food starch and carrageenan in the ingredient list. A farmer-owned cooperative with direct access to cream and its own fermentation infrastructure has no logistical reason to be adding industrial stabilizers to a 2-ingredient product. None. The only reason to do it is margin. By substituting fermentation time with cheaper stabilizers, you extend shelf life, reduce production time, and cut costs. The cooperative framing is real. The clean ingredient list is not. This is one of the more frustrating entries on the skip list because the means to do this right already exist within the organization, and this brand is choosing not to use them. Brand 4, Daisy Light. This one requires a critical distinction. Daisy's original pure and natural sour cream will appear on the real list in a few minutes, but Daisy Light is a fundamentally different product and it deserves its own warning. The light version contains modified cornstarch and vitamin A palmitate. The modified cornstarch is there to compensate for the removed fat, because when you strip fat, you lose texture, and the cheapest way to recover it is industrial starch, vitamin A. Palmitate is synthetically added because removing the fat also removes the fat-soluble vitamins, which then have to be chemically reintroduced. The label says 30% less fat. What it does not say is that you are trading real fat, the kind your body has been processing for millennia, for industrial starch and synthetic vitamins. This is a textbook health halo, and it is one of the most common engineering tricks in the light food category. Brand 5, Great Value. Great Value is Walmart's store brand, and we include it not to single out budget products, but because millions of households buy this every week and deserve to know exactly what is in it. The ingredient list contains modified food starch and carrageenan alongside the cultured cream. There is no heritage marketing here, no pastoral imagery, and that relative honesty is noted. But the critical point is this: real sour cream at scale is not inherently expensive to produce. The cost difference between a clean 2-ingredient formula and an additive-laden one is smaller than these corporations want you to believe. What drives the additive formula is not your health or your budget. It is extended shelf life, production consistency, and supply chain flexibility. You are subsidizing a logistics operation, not your own nutrition. Before we get to the 3 brands worth buying, here is a tool you can use in any grocery store anywhere in the world. 2 tests, under 30 seconds total. The first is the 2-ingredient rule. Pick up any sour cream container and flip it to the ingredient panel. Real sour cream should contain exactly 2 things: cream and bacterial cultures. That is it. Some transparent brands will even specify the culture strains: Lactococcus lactis, Leuconostoc cremoris, which is a sign of integrity, not marketing. The moment you see modified cornstarch, carrageenan, locust bean gum, guar gum, or the phrase natural flavor, put it back. Those are not enhancements. They are replacements for a process the manufacturer decided was too expensive to maintain. The second is the heat test. The next time you use sour cream in a warm dish, a pan sauce, a potato soup, a taco topping that meets a warm tortilla, watch what happens when it meets heat. Real sour cream, made from full-fat cream and live cultures, will melt smoothly into a warm sauce. The fat emulsifies cleanly and the texture holds. Additive-laden sour cream responds differently. The starches and gums behave erratically under heat. The product turns grainy, separates into watery pools, or develops a gluey texture. Your food will reveal what the label was hiding. These 2 tests take under a minute, and they will permanently change the way you shop the dairy aisle. The real list: 3 brands worth buying. Brand 1, Daisy Pure and Natural. Daisy Pure and Natural Sour Cream is one of the most remarkable value plays in the American dairy aisle. It is available at Target, Walmart, Kroger, and virtually every major grocery chain in the country at a price point nearly identical to the additive-containing competitors we just walked through. Flip it. The ingredient list reads cultured cream. 2 words, that is it. Daisy has been producing sour cream since 1917, over 100 years of a single, unchanged formula, with no modified starch, no carrageenan, and no natural flavor. The fact that a genuinely clean 2-ingredient sour cream sits at Walmart at a mainstream price should tell you everything about how much those additives in competing brands actually cost to add. They are not there because clean production is impossible at scale. They are there because they are marginally cheaper and significantly more shelf stable. Daisy is the consumer win in the most accessible category. real food at a real price, available to almost everyone. Brand 2, Nancy's Organic. Nancy's is made by Springfield Creamery in Eugene, Oregon, a family-owned operation founded in 1960 by Chuck and Sue Kesey. Over 60 years later, the family still runs it. Nancy's uses only certified organic cream and live probiotic cultures, and unlike virtually every other commercial sour cream producer, they publish the specific culture strains directly on the label: Lactobacillus acidophilus, Bifidobacterium, and Lactococcus lactis, among others. That level of microbial transparency is rare in the commercial dairy industry, and it is worth paying attention to. Nancy's also carries a measurably higher probiotic count than standard cultured sour cream, a direct result of their extended, unhurried fermentation process. The price is higher than Daisy, reflecting certified organic sourcing and small batch production. But if ingredient transparency and a documented probiotic profile matter to you, Nancy's is the most scientifically rigorous option on this list. When a family-owned creamery survives 60 years of industrial competition without ever changing its formula, that is not stubbornness, that is a commitment. Brand 3, Kelowna Supernatural. Kelowna Supernatural is produced by an Amish and Mennonite farming cooperative in Kelowna, Iowa. The cows are pasture-raised year-round. The operation is USDA certified organic and non-GMO, and the sour cream contains exactly 2 ingredients: organic cultured cream and organic cultures. What separates Kelowna from most organic dairy brands is not just the sourcing curve, it is the structural model. A cooperative means the farmers raising the cows have a direct financial stake in the quality of the final product. There is no intermediary manufacturer with quarterly margin targets looking for a cheaper thickener. That kind of structural integrity is something a conglomerate like Kraft Heinz is constitutionally incapable of replicating. Kelowna is the hardest to find of the 3. Look for it at Whole Foods, natural food co-ops, or specialty online retailers. The price reflects the sourcing, and every cent of it is accounted for in a 2-ingredient label. This is as close to the original definition of sour cream as you will find in a commercial container. Here is what we established today. Real sour cream has 2 ingredients. The corporations selling you a 7-ingredient simulation of it are not doing so because the clean version is impossible to produce at scale. Daisy proves otherwise at a mainstream price in virtually every grocery store in the country. They are doing it because thickeners are cheaper than fermentation time, because shelf life matters more to their balance sheet than your gut, and because they have spent decades training you not to flip the tub. That ends today. You now have the 2-ingredient rule. You have the heat test. You have 3 brands that have never compromised their formula. And you have 0 reason to hand your money to a corporation that is engineering a cheaper version of a real food and calling it the same thing. Your health is not a commodity for these companies to optimize. The food industry counts on your silence. Subscribe because you have the right to know the truth.